Hello, and welcome to episode 17 of Sarastro's Star Wars Legion painting series. In this episode we're going to paint the clone troopers from Fantasy Flight Games' Star Wars Legion. My aim when painting the clone troopers is to find a quick and easy way of shading the white armour, leaving us with little or no highlighting to do afterwards. I'll also be differentiating some of the squads with some of my favourite Legion markings. Let's take a look at the painting stages. We'll begin as usual by assembling the miniatures, and I've then chosen to prime the troopers in grey, followed with some white zenithal highlights applied from above. I'm then going to paint the main areas of black, before shading the white armour using a combination of contrast colours and flow enhancer. This gives us a nice amount of definition in the shadows, and, provided we soak up the excess, also doesn't overdarken the armour, producing a perfectly good tabletop standard in one simple step. For the finishing touches, I'll be adding a few optional highlights before drawing on the Legion markings and providing a nice bit of weathering. Let's begin. I'm going to begin by assembling the miniatures with some superglue. For any troopers whose arms and blaster obscure the body, which is most of them, I'm going to dry fit the arms and weapons to allow easier access to the torso, which will be especially useful when applying the unit markings. If you're aiming for a plain white look, then you may of course prefer to glue the entire figure together instead. I've now chosen to prime the troopers using the grey Steinel Res Primer from Badger. And here I'm applying some pure white zenithal highlights from above to create a gentle pattern of light and shade that should persist through to the finished look. Alternatively, a plain prime in white would also be fine. We're now ready to begin painting. I'm going to begin by painting the main black areas on the outfit using Vallejo's black. I've thinned the paint with water and a touch of De La Rowney's flow enhancer to help the paint flow into some of the recessed areas in between the white armour. Any mistakes can be tidied up easily enough with a touch of white. For the visor, I might thin the paint down even more to encourage the paint to flow easily into the recess. I'm now continuing with a more regular consistency to paint the horizontal rim on the helmet. This continues round the side and back, where it should strictly split into an upper dark grey band with black underneath, but given the scale we're working with, I'm just painting the whole thing in black. And here I'm just using some white to redefine the narrow strip just above the visor. Next I'm going to paint all of the weapons and gloves using black Templar. I'm also using this for the unit leader's binoculars and strap. With the main black areas complete, I'm now going to provide some shading to the white armour. For that, I've chosen to use a 3-to-1 mix of Apothecary White and black Templar. Using Apothecary White on its own is also a popular choice. I just chose to add some black to give me a slightly darker tone. To prevent over-darkening the flat areas of the armour, I've also chosen to thin the paint using 3 parts of contrast medium. And finally, I'm also mixing in some flow enhancer to help encourage the mix to flow into the recesses. I'm mixing a good quantity of this in a spare pot, but still using a palette whilst painting to prevent the chance of my knocking the pot over. I'm also placing some contrast medium on the palette in case I want to do some additional thinning once the paint's on the miniature. I'm starting with the helmet and coating the entire area with the grey mix. After giving the brush a quick clean, I'm now removing any unwanted excess, repeatedly wiping the brush on a nearby kitchen towel or sometimes the back of my hand. I might even dampen the brush with some of the medium to help thin the tone out for the flatter areas. I'm now moving on to the torso. Here it's the upper chest where I really want to soak the paint up, leaving a nice bright area of highlight. The other advantage of adding the flow enhancer is that it also slows the drying time, giving us more time to manipulate or remove the excess paint. You could obviously experiment with the precise ratios of colours and how far to thin things down to find a mix that works best for you and the look you're after. Just remember that the darker and more concentrated the mix, the more work you'll have to do with the highlights afterwards to bring the brightness of the armour back up. This approach to shading white armour could of course also be used for the stormtroopers. The arms could be painted separately or reattached if you like. Here you can see what a difference this process has on the look of the miniature. With a single step, we're able to create a nice level of definition with some dark lining in the recesses, whilst also preserving the bright finish of the flat and upturned areas of the armour. If you're looking for a decent tabletop standard, you could absolutely call these clone troopers done. Otherwise, join me now for some optional finishing touches. I'm now going to provide a few optional highlights to the armour using an off-white, which I'm creating by adding a hint of black and some ivory to some titanium white. You could use whatever off-white tone you like, however. I'm using this mostly to brighten up areas like the top of the helmet, shoulders and the chest. We can also pick out the front edge of the leg armour, giving us some nice easy definition. I'm only spending a few minutes highlighting each trooper since there's not much work to be done. I'm now using almost pure white to add a few final reflective spot highlights, mostly to the helmet and the shoulders. With that done, I'm now going to add some coloured markings to a couple of my units. I'm basing the design of one of my units on the 501st Legion, and I'm painting the markings on using Vallejo's medium blue mixed with a little black. If you want to skip the highlights here, you could draw these on with pure medium blue or something similar, and then jump to adding the weathering. These markings don't need to be immaculately neat, as I'll be adding some chips and battle damage afterwards. The design also has some thin stripes on the legs which I've chosen to omit to keep things manageable. I am however adding a small accent to the lower edge of the knee pads. I'm now highlighting things up to pure medium blue. And here I'm adding a little white to give a boost to the brightest highlights. For my next unit, I'm applying the design of the 212th Legion, and I'm using Averland Sunset mixed with a little Trollslayer orange and a touch of black. I've once again thinned the paint with a little flow enhancer, which I find helps when painting clean, flat designs like this. I'm now going to add some highlights by mixing some Yriel Yellow along with a hint of orange to the Averland Sunset. And I'm now adding a little white. Once the designs are complete, we can now use our white armour tone to add some chips and scratches. and I'm now using a black or dark grey to add some additional scratches and bits of weathering. We can now glue the arms and weapons into place. And I'm finishing things off by providing some texture for the base as described in episode 15, which means applying some basing paste, followed with a dry brush of Tyrant Skull, and my Geonosis shade mix of Agrax Earthshade and Fuegan Orange. This can also be thinned down with some Lahmian Medium and used to provide some gentle environmental weathering to the lower legs. And this completes the Clone Troopers. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Do please let me know if you have by leaving a like and by subscribing to the channel to ensure you don't miss future episodes. As always, you'll find a full product list in the video description below, where you can also find links to where I can be reached on Facebook, Instagram, Spotify and Twitter. Join me again soon as we continue painting the Clone Wars miniatures from Star Wars Legion. Happy painting!